200 years ago in 1826, the United States was still a young republic, barely 50 years removed from independence. But even in its youth, it was already expanding with ambition that stretched beyond its borders. Inside America, politics revolved around power struggles between federal authority and states' rights. Leaders debated tariffs, banking systems, and westward expansion. But while politicians argued about liberty, millions of enslaved Africans were still in chains. Freedom was celebrated, selectively. Religion played a powerful role. The Second Great Awakening swept across the country. Preachers spoke of salvation, morality, and divine destiny. This spiritual revival shaped American identity, reinforcing the belief that the nation had a sacred purpose. That belief would evolve into something dangerous. Manifest destiny. The idea that Americans were chosen by God to expand across the continent. And expand they did. Native American nations were pushed off ancestral lands. Through treaties that were often manipulated or broken, entire populations were displaced. This would culminate just a few years later in the Indian Removal Act of 1830, forcing thousands westward in what became known as the Trail of Tears. But American ambition did not stop at its own borders. In 1823, just 3 years before 1826, President James Monroe introduced the Monroe Doctrine. On the surface, it warned European powers not to interfere in the Americas. But beneath that warning was a deeper message. The Western Hemisphere was now America's sphere of influence. Over time, this doctrine would justify interventions across Latin America, shaping the destinies of nations like Mexico, Cuba, and others for generations. America was still young, but already the patterns were forming. Expansion, influence, religious justification, and political power masked in the language of freedom. The struggle between ideals and reality had begun, and it would define the next 2 centuries.